customer. You can't just walk up to a waitress and ask her out.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to go ahead and come in on Saturday. That single line became the anthem of cubicle despair. But Office Space wasn't just a workplace comedy. It was a rebellion, a cinematic middle finger to the monotony of corporate life. Behind the laughs, chaos brewed. Sets were destroyed, executives panicked, and actors clashed over the smallest details. What audiences never saw was the strange alchemy that turned Mike Judge's satirical script into a cult classic. Today we're breaking open the filing cabinet and revealing 20 weird facts about Office Space that studios never wanted you to know. And wait until the bonus fact, the most shocking secret of all. Grab your stapler. This is going to get messy. The stapler wasn't supposed to be red. It wasn't just an office prop. It was destiny. The now iconic swing-line stapler, clutched like a holy relic by Milton, wasn't red at all in reality. Swing-line didn't even make red staplers in 1999. Production designer Edward T. McAvoy ordered it custom-painted to make it stand out in the drab beige office. The color wasn't an accident. It symbolized Milton's fiery resentment boiling beneath his timid exterior. Fans loved it so much that Swingline started officially manufacturing red staplers in 2002, and they became one of their best-selling products. What was meant as a throwaway prop transformed into a cultural icon. A beige cube farm suddenly had its Excalibur, and Milton was its unlikely king. Ron Livingston nearly walked away. Peter Gibbons, the everyman trapped in cubicle hell, almost didn't exist in the form we know him. Ron Livingston originally auditioned half-heartedly, convinced he wasn't right for the role. He even considered walking away when offered the part, worried he couldn't capture Peter's numb, checked-out aura. But Mike Judge pushed him, saying Livingston's casual delivery was exactly what the film needed. "You look like a guy who doesn't care," Judge allegedly joked, and that sealed the deal. Livingston's deadpan became the soul of the movie. Without him, Office Space might have collapsed into pure caricature. Instead, Peter became the embodiment of office rebellion, a man so apathetic he was accidentally inspiring. The famous copier scene was practically a crime. It wasn't CGI. It wasn't a prop. That poor printer/copier really met a brutal end in a Texas field. Filming the destruction scene was harder than it looked. None of the actors knew how to swing a baseball bat convincingly. Director Mike Judge had to yell cues like "harder" and "don't just tap it," while the crew kept the cameras rolling. To make matters worse, destroying corporate property, even in parody, made Fox executives uneasy. Rumor has it, the studio insisted legal clearances be filed for the brand of the copier so no lawsuits would erupt. Ironically, the scene became the most cathartic moment in the movie. Not vandalism, liberation. Jennifer Aniston hated her costume. It looked simple, a waitress outfit plastered with flare buttons, but Jennifer Aniston despised it. At the time, she was one of the biggest stars in television thanks to Friends, and yet she was stuck wearing a polyester vest decorated like a middle school art project. She hated the itchy fabric, she hated the flare, and most of all, she hated the humiliation of being filmed while fake customers judged her smile. Aniston later admitted that the outfit perfectly captured the soul-sucking absurdity of minimum wage work. What she loathed became what audiences loved, the ultimate symbol of forced cheer in a joyless system. Fox wanted to cut Milton entirely. Here's the kicker. Milton Wadams, the mumbling soul at the heart of Office Space, almost never made it into the film. Fox executives hated him. They argued his subplot was too strange, too meandering, and irrelevant to Peter's story. Mike Judge fought back. He reminded them Milton was the seed of the entire movie. His animated shorts about the character had inspired the script in the first place. Judge won the battle, but barely. Without Milton, we'd never have the stapler, the mumbling, or the legendary burn the place down finale. Not a side character. The keystone, the office park, was real and already empty. The bleak office park where Initech existed wasn't a built set. It was a real business park in Austin, Texas that was mostly vacant at the time of filming. Mike Judge scouted the location because of its eerily sterile architecture, rows of identical windows, soulless parking lots, and dead silence. Crews barely had to modify it to achieve that corporate purgatory look. The emptiness gave actors space to wander and improvise without disruption. What audiences saw wasn't an exaggerated parody. It was an authentic snapshot of 1990s suburban corporate sprawl, the kind Judge had personally lived through when he worked as an engineer. The realism made the satire bite harder. It wasn't a set. It was America. Stephen Root's transformation into Milton was extreme. Stephen Root didn't just play Milton, he became him. To capture the hunched, mumbling posture, Root stuffed his pockets with coins to throw off his balance. He wore oversized glasses that blurred his vision so he could squint and stumble naturally. His voice, a strangled, nasal murmur, was inspired by people Root had met working odd jobs. The character was so convincing that crew members often avoided him between takes, unsure if he was in or out of character. Mike Judge once said Root's Milton was so real, it was uncomfortable. What was supposed to be comic relief turned into one of cinema's most haunting portraits of workplace invisibility. The TPS reports came from real life. It wasn't just a joke. Did you get the memo about the TPS reports? Came directly from Mike Judge's past as an engineer at a tech company. TPS stood for Test Procedure Specification, and it haunted Judge's daily grind. He once received 6 memos about formatting one document incorrectly, an experience so absurd he scribbled it down in frustration. In the film, the repeated harassment over TPS reports became a running gag, an inside joke that every white-collar worker instantly recognized, not just a line of dialogue, a battle cry against pointless bureaucracy that turned office space into a cultural touchstone for anyone trapped under fluorescent lights. Lumbergh's voice wasn't planned. Gary Cole's performance as Bill Lumbergh, the passive-aggressive boss from hell, wasn't written with that voice. The script had him as a generic corporate drone. But Cole, in rehearsal, stretched out his vowels and added that lazy nasal drawl, "Yeah, I'm gonna need you to." It cracked everyone up on set, so Judge told him to keep it. That monotone menace became the character's signature, a chilling mix of boredom and control. Cole later said he based it on real managers he'd endured, men who could ruin your week with a single memo but never raise their voices, not yelling, worse, smiling while crushing you. The film bombed at the box office. Here's the shocking truth. Office Space wasn't a hit in 1999. It limped through theaters, barely making back its modest budget. Critics were mixed, and many audiences skipped it, dismissing it as another disposable workplace comedy. But then came DVD and cable reruns. Word of mouth exploded. The film became a cult phenomenon, quoted endlessly in offices across America. By the mid-2000s, it wasn't just a movie. It was a survival guide. People started gifting copies to new employees as a warning. Failure at first, immortality later. And before we move on, go ahead and like and subscribe, because the next 10 facts are even stranger, and you won't want to miss the bonus one at the end. Mike Judge slipped into the film himself. Directors sometimes make cameos, but Mike Judge didn't just show up. He became a nightmare boss. He voiced the character of Stan, Jennifer Aniston's manager at Tchotchkes, who lectures her about flair. Judge deliberately pitched his voice higher, making Stan sound simultaneously upbeat and soul-crushing. "We want you to express yourself," he chirps, before demanding conformity. It was Judge's sly way of mocking corporate doublespeak. Many viewers never realized the director himself was behind one of the film's most absurd characters. Not just a cameo, a confession. Judge had lived through this nonsense, and his own voice became the mouthpiece of corporate hypocrisy. The hypnosis scene became tragic. Peter's life changes after a hypnosis session that frees him from anxiety. But the actor who played the hypnotherapist, Michael McShane, had a real-life tragedy linked to the film. The day after filming his scenes, McShane's father passed away unexpectedly. Though unrelated to the hypnosis plot, cast members were shaken by the eerie parallel. A therapist dying mid-session in the movie, a sudden death in reality. The hypnosis sequence, already surreal, carried a haunting undertone after that. On screen, it's a turning point. Off screen, it became a reminder of life's fragile unpredictability. Fiction and reality collided in unsettling ways. Improvisation changed entire scenes. Though tightly scripted, Office Space thrived on improvisation. David Herman, who played Michael Bolton, added riffs about hating his name that weren't in the script. Diedrich Bader, as Peter's mulleted neighbor Lawrence, improvised lines like, "Two chicks at the same time, man." Judge loved the spontaneity and often let cameras roll long after cut was called. Those unscripted moments gave the film its raw, lived-in texture, not just actors reading lines, co-workers venting frustrations in real time. That improvisational freedom turned a satire into something eerily authentic. These weren't characters. They were people everyone knew in real life. Jennifer Aniston. Nearly quit the role, Aniston was skeptical about doing the film at all. Already famous from Friends, she worried Office Space was too small for her career. The production budget was tiny, and the shoot in Austin felt far from Hollywood prestige. She even considered leaving before filming began. But Mike Judge persuaded her, arguing that her grounded charm was essential for Joanna, the one character who wasn't beaten down by office despair. Aniston stayed, but she kept her distance from cast members, filming most of her scenes separately. Ironically, her reluctant participation helped. Her character really does feel like an outsider to the office madness. The burned building was real fire. When Milton finally burns down Initech in the climax, audiences assumed it was CGI or miniature effects. Nope. The crew set part of the office building ablaze for real, under strict fire department supervision. The exterior shots used carefully controlled flames, while smoke machines enhanced the chaos. Actors were kept at a safe distance, but Judge admitted the heat was overwhelming. Filming wrapped just minutes before conditions became unsafe. The image of Initech engulfed in flames wasn't a digital trick. It was real fire devouring a real office, captured forever as Milton's ultimate revenge. The rap soundtrack nearly got cut. One of the boldest creative choices was the hardcore hip-hop soundtrack blasting over scenes of office drones. Ice Cube, Geto Boys, and Scarface weren't what Fox executives had in mind for a workplace comedy. They wanted quirky elevator music or light pop. Mike Judge fought tooth and nail to keep the rap tracks, arguing that it gave the character's rage real texture. Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangsta during the copier beatdown wasn't just background, it was commentary. Studio heads hated it. Audiences adored it. Without it up, that soundtrack, Office Space, might have been quirky. With it, it was revolutionary. Orlando Jones's role was almost bigger. Orlando Jones, cast as the magazine salesman scammer, filmed more scenes than audiences ever saw. His character was meant to appear throughout the film as a running gag, conning each of the main characters. But test screenings revealed audiences thought it distracted from Peter's storyline, so most of Jones's material was cut. He later admitted he was disappointed, but said he understood. His short appearance still left an impression, and fans have often wondered what a fuller version of the movie, complete with Jones's hustler, might have looked like. Not deleted because it was bad, deleted because it was too good. Ron Livingston slept through. Takes to nail Peter's lethargic vibe, Ron Livingston sometimes literally napped on set. In scenes where Peter slumps in his cubicle, Livingston would half close his eyes and drift until cameras rolled. Crew members occasionally had to nudge him awake. It wasn't laziness. It was method acting by accident. Judge later said Livingston's willingness to embrace fatigue gave the character authenticity. Peter wasn't cartoonishly exhausted. He looked like a man drained by years of monotony, not overacting, underliving, and it worked. Viewers felt like they'd seen this guy slumped across from them at work every Monday morning. The ending was a fight with the studio. Mike Judge wanted Milton's fiery revenge to be ambiguous. Was the office really burned down, or was it all in his head? Fox hated that idea. They pushed for a literal fire, fearing audiences would be confused. Judge reluctantly agreed, but slipped in surreal touches. The Caribbean beach epilogue, Milton mumbling about another margarita, to preserve a dreamlike quality. The compromise worked. The ending was both literal and metaphorical. Corporate structures burning, and Milton's dream finally realized. What Fox tried to simplify became one of the strangest, most talked-about finales of any comedy in the 90s. Cult status saved Mike Judge's career. When Office Space bombed at the box office, Judge feared his Hollywood career was over. Studios dismissed him as a one-hit wonder from Beavis and Butthead. But the cult following, built through word of mouth and home video, resurrected his reputation. The film became required viewing in offices, cited in business books, and even shown in management training seminars as a warning about bad leadership. Years later, when Judge created Idiocracy and Silicon Valley, it was Office Space that executives remembered. Failure became fuel. The film wasn't just saved, it saved the man who made it. The cult screenings turned into revolts. Years after its release, Office Space began screening at real corporate events. Companies thought it was team-building big mistake. At some showings, employees erupted in laughter at their boss's expense, cheering Milton and booing Lumbergh. A few even stormed out mid-event, furious at the hypocrisy of managers who forced them to watch a satire about soul-crushing work. One executive later admitted it backfired spectacularly. What was meant as a joke became an uprising. Office Space didn't just parody workplace rebellion, it accidentally started real ones. Office Space wasn't just a comedy about cubicles, it was a mirror, a warning, and a spark. What began as a box office flop became one of the most quoted, most beloved workplace satires in history. And the strangest part? Every absurdity in the film, every stapler, every memo, every piece of flair was drawn from reality. That's why it still resonates. Because it wasn't fiction, it was The Office. So if you've ever wanted to smash a printer or mumble about your stapler, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and remember, in the world of Office Space, the real punchline was us all along.